I was just going to return the purse my daughter-in-law left behind. Then the phone inside it rang. "Ma'am, this is the bank. It's serious." Why was my name on a safe deposit box opened this morning? With my signature. One I never made if I hadn't answered that call. My home and my granddaughter would have vanished in one weekend. My name is Marjorie Hale. I'm 62 years old, a widow for nearly a decade now, and I live in the same quiet, tree-lined suburb of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that my husband, Frank, and I bought into 30 years ago. For 40 years. I was a medical bill controller over at Harborline Benefit Solutions. My whole job was finding discrepancies. I looked for numbers that didn't add up, codes that were wrong, and signatures that didn't match the authorization. I was good at it. Maybe too good. I retired thinking I was done with spotting fraud. I was wrong. My son, Derek, is 36. He used to be a mortgage broker, and a successful one, before the market turned. Now, he's between jobs, a phrase that stretches thinner with every passing week. His wife, Sienna, is 33. She's a beautiful woman, always impeccably dressed. But she holds her life close to the vest, especially her finances. They have a daughter, my granddaughter, Piper. She is 8 years old and the one uncomplicated light in this house. They've been living with me temporarily for 18 months. It was supposed to be a few weeks, just until they sorted things out after Derek's job loss and the unfortunate timing on their condo sale. 18 months of my quiet, ordered home becoming. Not mine. The signals were small. Things you'd brush off if you were trying to be a good mother, a supportive mother-in-law. Sienna would tidy my desk, and suddenly my bank statements would be in a different drawer. My mail, which I always left on the hall table, would be sorted, sometimes with things I was sure I hadn't seen yet already filed away. Sienna has a way of organizing things that makes you feel disorganized for having had them your way. Then Derek offered to help me manage my online accounts. He said it with such casual concern. "Mum, these systems are designed to be confusing. Let me just link your utilities to your bank account. Make it all automatic. You shouldn't have to worry about due dates." I let him. At first, it seemed easier. But then I'd notice he was helping me with my main checking account, the one my pension goes into. I told him I was perfectly capable. But he just smiled that easy smile of his and said, "I know you are. Mum, I just want to help. I'm not a fool. I might be retired, but my mind is as sharp as it was when I was reconciling multi-million-dollar hospital accounts. The most important document's the deed to this house, which is paid off and in my name alone. My will. Frank's death certificate. My bond certificates, they don't live in a desk drawer. They live in a small, fireproof mini-safe tucked into the back of my closet. The password is a date only I would know. A date that existed before Derek was even born. My neighbour, Ruthie Mercer, understands. Ruthie is 65 and worked as a legal secretary for 30 years. She's seen enough bad behaviour in probate court to last a lifetime. "You keep that deed close?" "Marjorie." She told me over coffee just last week. "Family is family, but a paid-off house in your name. That's a fortress. Don't give anyone the key, even by accident." Sienna has a collection of purses. It's a strange thing, but I've noticed. She seems to have one for every possible occasion, switching them out daily. A sleek black one for meetings, a small, glittering one for the rare nights out she and Derek take, and a practical tote for when she has Piper. This morning, everything was rushed. Derek had an interview, and Sienna was taking Piper to school before heading to whatever it is she does during the day. She's always vague about it. There was shouting, not angry, just frantic. Keys being lost. Piper's homework forgotten. In the chaos. Sienna grabbed her coat, kissed Piper goodbye, and rushed out the door with Derek. She left the purse. It was sitting right on my kitchen counter, next to the toaster. A cream-colored leather bag, one I'd never seen before. Expensive looking. It was out of place in my slightly dated, comfortable kitchen. My plan was simple. I'd have my coffee. Read the paper. Ruthie was coming by for our morning walk. After lunch. I figured I'd drive the purse over to Sienna. She'd probably called her own phone a dozen times by then. I just meant to return it. That's all. I had no idea that simple, cream-colored bag held a different name for me. A name I hadn't earned, on a document I hadn't signed. I was still sitting at the kitchen table, the cream-colored purse, an unwelcome guest on the placemat, when a muffled ringing came from inside it. It was not the chirpy ringtone Sienna usually had. This was a low, insistent vibration and buzz. I hesitated. It was not my phone, but it was in my house, and something about the persistence of it made my skin prickle. I unzipped the main compartment. Her wallet was there, a smartphone dark, face down, and a cloud of expensive perfume. The phone lit up again, buzzing angrily against the leather. The screen read, Lakeview Community Bank, Fraud Desk. My breath hitched. That was my bank. Frank and I had opened our first account there. Why was the fraud department calling Sienna before I could think it through? My fingers had answered the call, pressing the phone to my ear. Hello? My voice was tight. Hello? May I speak with Marjorie Hale? A professional, clipped voice asked, a cold dread, sharp and immediate, washed over me. I sat down heavily. This is Marjorie Hale. Who is this? Ma'am, this is Stephen from the fraud desk at Lakeview Community Bank. We are calling to verify some activity on your account this morning. Can you please confirm you were at our downtown branch today? Approximately at 9:12 a.m. My mind raced. No. I was not. I have not been to the bank in months. I do almost everything online. There was a pause. The sound of typing. Ma'am, our records show that a safe deposit box, number B17, was opened in your name today. It was accessed using a durable power of attorney filed with us, bearing your signature. A power of attorney? I almost choked on the words. I have never signed a power of attorney, not for anyone. I understand your concern, ma'am, Stephen said, his voice remaining level, but I could hear the new caution in it. The paperwork presented included a notarized durable power of attorney and a photocopy of your driver's license. The signature was run through our verification system and came back as a 99% match to your signature card on file. 99%, not 100. That was the detail my old job snagged on. A 99% match means it is a forgery, a very good forgery. What was put in this box? I demanded, my voice dropping to the flat, serious tone I used to use at Harbourline. According to the access slip, the individual who accessed the box using the power of attorney deposited one item. It was a thick, sealed envelope, logged as Estate Pre-Transfer, M. Hale. Estate Pre-Transfer. My estate, my house. The house that was in my name alone. This was not a random fraud. This was targeted. This was about my home. and it was being orchestrated from inside it. "I did not authorize this," I said, my voice shaking with a cold fury, not fear. "I did not sign anything. I am the victim of identity theft. I want you to freeze that box immediately. No one is to access it, not even me, until I come in. Ma'am, under bank policy, with a filed POA, under federal law." I cut him off. "As the alleged principal of this document, I am telling you I am disputing its validity and I am revoking all authority. I am exercising my right as the identity holder. Freeze access to box B17 for 24 hours. I will be there this afternoon." The shift was immediate. "Yes, ma'am. A 24-hour hold is being placed on the box, and a security alert is being attached to your entire profile. We will see you this afternoon." I ended the call, my hand trembling as I dropped the phone back into the purse. My heart was hammering, but my mind was sharp. The bank called Sienna's phone to find me. Why did they have her number attached to my name? My hesitation about privacy was gone. This was my home, my life. I dumped the contents of the cream-coloured purse onto my kitchen table. The usual clutter, a high-end lipstick, a compact mirror, a half-eaten pack of gum, a few receipts for coffee. But beneath that, the things that mattered, a sleek, black card key. It did not have a name, just the Lakeview Community Bank logo and the words Priority Access Client. I had been with that bank for 40 years, and I had never seen a card like that. An unlabeled USB drive, a small silver stick, innocuous. And at the very bottom, tucked into a side pocket as if hidden, was a folded sheaf of papers. I pulled them out. My blood ran cold. It was a draft. Durable power of attorney. All the fields were filled in. Principal Marjorie Hale, Agent Sienna Vale, my address, my social security number, all correct. The signature line at the bottom was empty, but it was not alone. Clipped to the packet, in a small, protective plastic sleeve, was a thin, clear piece of mica. I held it up to the light. There, traced perfectly on the film in black ink, was a practice signature. It was my signature, the kind of perfect, flowing signature I had not used in years, the one from my old driver's license, the one on file at the bank. Sienna had not just found a document. She had been practicing. She had created a template for forgery, and the call from the bank confirmed she had already used it. The woman who slept under my roof and ate at my table was actively trying to steal it from me. I took a deep, steadying breath and returned the contents to Sienna's purse, zipping it shut. The mica film and the USB drive felt like they were burning a hole in my consciousness. I placed the purse back on the counter, exactly as I had found it. Then I went to my own phone, the landline in the kitchen, and dialed Sienna's number. My voice, when I spoke, was the careful, neutral voice of a mother-in-law. "Sienna, dear," I said, "I just wanted to let you know. You left your cream-coloured purse on the counter. You must have been in a hurry." The silence on the other end was immediate and heavy. Then, a sharp intake of breath. "My purse? It's there?" Her voice was tight, high. "Yes, right by the toaster." "Don't touch it," she snapped, then immediately tried to soften her tone. "I mean, please, Marjorie, don't go through it. I have some very sensitive work papers in there. Confidential." "Oh, I would never dream of it," I said, the lie tasting like ash. "I just wanted you to know it was safe. I can bring it to you. If you..." No, no. Thank you. That's fine. I'll get it when I get home tonight. Just leave it. Please. Just leave it right where it is. Of course, dear. I hung up. My hand was steady, but my heart was a trapped bird. She had confirmed it. Whatever was in that purse was her secret, not her works. I had about an hour before Derek usually got home from his interviews. I took the small, silver USB drive from Sienna's bag, left the bag itself, and walked straight across my lawn to Ruthie Mercer's house. Ruthie opened the door with a spatula in her hand, smelling of baked cookies. "Marjorie, you look like you've seen a snake." "I have," I said, holding up the tiny drive. "And it's in my house. Ruthie, I need your laptop, the one you keep offline." She didn't ask questions, just nodded. She was a legal secretary for 30 years. She knew the look of a crisis. We went to her small den, and she booted up an old, reliable machine. I plugged in the drive. The file structure was chillingly organized. A folder named Estate. Inside that, M. Hale. There were scans of everything. The deed to my house, my social security card, my driver's license, the same one the bank must have seen a copy of. There was a subfolder labeled Signature Samples, containing scans of old checks I had written, the very signature they had copied onto that mica film. Then, a document named Pre-Sale Plan. I clicked it. It was a formal plan from a broker I had never heard of, a man named Nash. It detailed a quick, as-is sale of my property, a timeline, and a valuation that was offensively low. They were not just securing the house, they were liquidating it. At the bottom of the file list was a single image, a photo of a cashier's check. My stomach lurched. The check was for $18,500. The pay to line was made out to D. Hale. And in the memo, 2 chilling words, deposit once POA cleared. "Oh, Marjorie," Ruthie whispered, her hand on my shoulder. I copied everything onto a fresh drive Ruthie gave me, then deleted the access log from her computer. As I was about to leave, my phone buzzed. A text from Ruthie, even though she was standing right beside me. It read, "Do not go to that bank alone. Do not confront them alone. Take the proof. And take a lawyer." I got back to my house minutes before Derek's car pulled in. I had already put the USB drive back in Sienna's purse, nestled it deep in the liner. The purse sat on the counter, a silent bomb. Derek walked in, whistling, but his eyes darted immediately to the purse. "Hey, Mum. Long day." "You're home early," I said, my voice flat. "Interview was short." "Oh." Sienna left her bag. He drifted toward it. "The bank called today," I said. He stopped. He did not turn. His shoulders tensed. Then he relaxed them, deliberately, and turned to face me with a mask of manufactured concern. "The bank? Oh, everything okay?" "No. Derek? It is not. They called to confirm why I had opened a new safe deposit box this morning, using a power of attorney I never signed." He laughed, a small, dismissive huff. "Mom, you must have misunderstood. You know how confusing those calls can be. They probably just mixed up your file with someone else's. They said it was my name, my signature, and my license." He sighed. The picture of a patient son dealing with a confused elderly mother. "Look, this is exactly the kind of stuff I've been worried about. It's too much for you. Tell you what, I'll clear my schedule tomorrow. We'll go down to the bank together. First thing, we will get this all sorted out, get it all transparent. He reached for Sienna's purse. I'll take this. She'll be worried. I'll hold on to it for her. My hand shot out and clamped down on the purse strap. No. He stopped, surprised by the force in my voice. What? I don't need you to come tomorrow. Derek, I already have an appointment with the branch manager this afternoon to discuss the fraud. His face changed. The polite mask dissolved, replaced by a cold, hard anger I had not seen since he was a teenager. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you wait for me? I'm just trying to protect you. I'm trying to help. Help me. Yes. Help. His voice rose, becoming sharp and controlling. You're going behind my back. You're going through Sienna's things. He pointed at the purse, his finger jabbing the air. Mom, don't you trust me? The question hung in the air, a desperate, manipulative strike. I looked at the man who was my son, the man who had taken a check for $18,500 contingent on stealing my life's work. No, I said, my voice quiet, final. I do not. Derek's face contorted, but I didn't wait to hear the explosion. I grabbed my own coat and keys, left Sienna's purse on the counter like a landmine, and walked out the front door. I didn't drive to the bank. I walked straight back to Ruthie's. The moment she opened the door, she knew. He's in on it, I said, my voice flat. He tried to take the purse. He tried to gaslight me. Of course he did, Ruthie said, pulling me inside. They always do. But he's an amateur. You're not. I made a call. She pressed a piece of paper into my hand. Her name is Claire Donnelly. She's an attorney. She specializes in this. She's waiting for you. 1 hour later, I was sitting in an office that was the opposite of my cozy home. It was all glass, steel, and sharp angles. Claire Donnelly was in her 50s, dressed in a sharp navy suit, and radiated an intensity that made me sit up straighter. She wasn't warm. She was a weapon. And she specialized in elder financial abuse. Ruthie gave me the outline, Claire said, wasting no time on pleasantries. But you brought exhibits. I slid the printed copies I'd made at the pharmacy across her desk. The deed, the signature samples, the plan from the broker, Nash, and the final, sickening photo of the cashier's check. Claire stared at the check for $18,500. Deposit once POA cleared, and D. Hale is your son. Yes. This is not a plan. This is a conspiracy, and they are sloppy. Claire said. She picked up her desk phone. Sarah, I need you to draft an affidavit of non-authorization for Marjorie Hale and send litigation hold notices, effective immediately, to Lakeview Community Bank and this Nash brokerage. I want them sent by courier and email. Now. She hung up and looked at me, her eyes drilling into mine. Here is what happens next. You are not going to that bank this afternoon. That's what they expect. We do not do what they expect. First, she said, holding up a finger. That affidavit is your sworn statement. It states you never authorized that power of attorney. That document is our legal spear. We will file it with the bank and the court. Second, the litigation hold. This legally requires the bank and that broker to preserve every single piece of paper, every email, every server log, and every second of video surveillance related to you. If they delete anything now, it is an admission of guilt. Third, she continued, your online access. Your son helped you. Yes, he has your passwords. We are assuming he and his wife have compromised everything. She pulled a small plastic device from her drawer. This is a hardware security key. You will leave here, go straight to your bank, a different branch, and lock all remote access to your accounts. You will change your passwords, and you will set up two-factor authentication using this key, not your phone. From now on, they cannot log in, even with the right password, unless they have this physical key in their hand. She paused, her face softening just a fraction. Marjorie, I need to warn you. This is the part where they turn. The moment they feel the slightest resistance. The moment they realize you are not a compliant victim. They will change tactics. They will tell everyone, the bank, the police, your friends, other family, that you are confused, that you are having memory lapses, that you are paranoid. They will paint themselves as the concerned, loving children just trying to manage you for your own good. They will try to make you sound insane. Are you ready for that? I was a medical bill controller for 40 years, I said, my voice finding a steel I thought I'd lost. My entire career was spent spotting fraud. I am not confused. Good, Claire said, a thin smile appearing. Now, the plan for the bank. We go tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., together. We will demand to see the original POA they accepted, not a copy. We will demand the notary logbook, and we will demand to see the security video from 9:12 a.m. this morning, showing who exactly opened that box. She tapped the printed photos from the USB drive. You have not told me where you got these. I do not want to know. A source provided them. That is all. The fact that we have them is leverage enough. She stood up, signaling the meeting was over. Tonight is the most difficult part. You will go home. You will not say a word about me. You will not mention the lawyer, or the holds, or the hardware key. You will tell Derek you called the bank and cleared up the misunderstanding. You will act tired. You will act, perhaps, a little forgetful. You will let them believe they are in complete control. Let them sleep well tonight, thinking their plan is working. Tomorrow, we pull the first thread. Can you do that? Marjorie. I thought of my son's angry, manipulative face. I thought of Sienna's stolen signature. Yes, I said. Tonight, I can be anything they want me to be. The branch manager, a man named Mr. Davies, whom I had known casually for years, looked profoundly uncomfortable. We were in his glass-walled office, the door shut. Claire Donnelly sat beside me, her leather satchel on her lap, an aura of expensive, predatory calm around her. Marjorie, Mrs. Hale, I am so glad you came in. Davies stammered, shuffling papers. When we got the litigation hold notice this morning, I immediately pulled all the documents. And of course, your affidavit of non-authorization. Then you have the power of attorney that was filed yesterday, Claire said. It was not a question. Yes. He slid a document across the desk. And you have to understand, from our perspective, this file was, well, it was immaculate. The notarization was from a recognized local notary. The signature, he glanced at me, was a 99% match on our system. It was very clean. Who was the witness? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Claire pointed to the second signature line. The witness to the principal's signature. Who was it? Davies cleared his throat. That would be Sienna Vale, your daughter-in-law. She is listed as the agent, but she also signed as the secondary witness. which is highly irregular, but not technically illegal, and you accepted it. Claire stated flatly. Davies's collar seemed to tighten. We have the security footage you requested from yesterday morning, he said, eager to move on. He turned his monitor around. 9:12 a.m. This is the new accounts desk where the POA was filed. The video was clear, but the person was not. It showed a figure it was impossible to tell if it was a man or a woman. They wore a heavy coat, a dark hooded sweatshirt pulled up, and large, dark sunglasses. But the detail that made my stomach clench was the hands. The person was wearing thin, blue, disposable medical gloves. They signed the paper with a gloved hand, the movements stiff and unnatural. That's not helpful, I murmured. It is, Claire said quietly. It shows intent to conceal. That is not someone signing a document. That is someone committing a crime. Now. The vault access. Davies clicked a new file. The vault. The person presented the POA and your driver's license copy to the attendant. As per procedure, they were granted access. Wait, I said, leaning in. The attendant's logbook. Who signed in? Davies winced. That's the discrepancy that triggered the initial fraud call. The POA was in your name, but the person who physically entered the vault and signed the access log was Sienna Vale. My daughter-in-law, I said, for the manager's benefit. At the time, Davies said, the attendant assumed she was simply acting as your agent, as the POA allowed. The call to you was just a secondary verification. The call that had saved me. We want to see the box, Claire said. The walk to the vault was the longest of my life. The air was cold, sterile, and silent. A different attendant, a nervous young woman, retrieved box B17. We were escorted to a private viewing room. With the manager and Claire watching, the attendant used her key, and I used the bank's copy. The small metal door clicked open. I slid the long, thin metal box out. It was light. Inside was a single, thick manila envelope, just as Stephen from the fraud desk had said. It was labelled, Estate Pre-Transfer, M. Hale. Claire put on a pair of thin reading glasses and, using a pen, not her fingers, eased the contents out onto the table. First was the document itself, the original, forged power of attorney. The paper felt thick, expensive. My signature at the bottom was a perfect, flowing replica of my bank card signature. It was beautiful, and it was a lie. Second was a stapled packet. The header read, Liquidation Schedule. My eyes scanned the list. Sale of principal residence, auction of identified heirlooms, consolidation of all financial accounts. It was a step-by-step guide to erasing me. Tucked behind it was a typed list titled Family Antiques and Heirlooms. My mother's silver, Frank's military decorations, the grandfather clock in the hall, all itemized, all marked for appraisal and sale. And last, on top, was a single sheet, a confirmation slip, appraisal appointment. It was scheduled for this coming Saturday, at my address. They were planning to walk a stranger through my home, pricing my life, while I was still living in it. I felt the blood drain from my face and sat down hard in the small chair. This is everything, Claire said, her voice sharp and clear, cutting through my shock. She looked at Davies, who looked ill. Mr. Davies, my client and I require an official bank report detailing this breach. We want this box and its entire contents sealed, documented, and held as evidence. No one is to touch it. Yes, of course, Davies said, grabbing the phone on the wall. Immediately. I am so sorry, Mrs. Hale. You need to do more than that, Claire said as he spoke to security. You need to activate your highest level internal fraud alert. You have an employee or a former employee who is likely complicit in guiding this fraud. The priority access card, the 99% signature match. This was an inside job, assisted by my client's family. Davies's face went white. He understood. He was not just looking at a customer complaint. He was looking at a massive legal liability. I will handle it, he said, his voice now stripped of all false pleasantry. The bank will cooperate fully. As we walked out, Claire said, He'll activate the alert. They're vulnerable now. He'll do anything to protect the bank. Which means, for the first time, he's on your side. That evening, the house was suffocatingly quiet. I found them in the living room, waiting for me. Sienna's cream-coloured purse was pointedly absent from the kitchen counter. Sienna stood up, her arms crossed. Her face was a mask of cold grievance. So, where is it? Marjorie. Where is what, Sienna? I asked, placing my keys in the bowl by the door. My purse. The one you promised you wouldn't touch. I came home. And it's gone. Did you have fun going through my things? What did you do? Take it somewhere. Get lost with it. I haven't seen your purse since I left this house, I said. This is unbelievable, she said, turning to Derek with practiced exasperation. I told you this was happening. She's confused. She's losing things. And now she's hiding my property. She's meddling. Derek stood and stepped between us, playing the peacemaker. It was a role I now saw as grotesque. Mum. Sienna. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This fighting, this suspicion. It's not healthy for any of us. It's not stable. We're a family. He put a hand on my arm, his touch proprietary. I have a simple solution. A family agreement. We'll go to a lawyer tomorrow. All three of us. We'll just put all our names on the house. Co-ownership. That way. Everyone is protected. Everyone is transparent. It's just paperwork. Mom, it's for peace. So we can stop all this. I looked at his face. So earnest. So false. The son who had agreed to sell my home. That will not be necessary. Derek? I said. My voice was calm, clear, and did not shake. Mum, don't be difficult. I met with the branch manager at Lakeview today, I said, cutting him off. I also brought my attorney. The bank has confirmed the power of attorney is fraudulent and an act of identity theft. The safe deposit box has been sealed, and its contents are being held as evidence in a criminal investigation. The blood drained from Sienna's face. Derek recoiled as if I had struck him. You... What? Sienna's voice was a hiss, all pretense of the concerned daughter-in-law vanishing. You went to a lawyer. You're trying to ruin us after everything we've done. You have done nothing but attempt to steal my home. You're crazy, she shrieked, her control finally snapping. You're a paranoid old woman? Fine. You want to play this way. You want to bring lawyers into this family. You will never see Piper again. I will make sure of it. I will not have my daughter raised in this toxic, hostile environment. I'll take her. And I'll tell the courts exactly how unstable and dangerous you are. A cold, hard line was crossed. You will not, I said. My voice was low, but it silenced her. You will not use that child as a bargaining chip. Piper has nothing to do with your conspiracy. This is about forgery and theft. My actions are to protect myself and my property, and that includes protecting Piper's home. Any attempt to use her to threaten or manipulate me will be noted, and I will not accept any behavior that harms that child. Sienna stared at me, speechless with rage. In that sudden, tense silence, Derek's phone, sitting screen up on the coffee table, buzzed and lit up. A text message preview flashed on the screen. A name I didn't know. The message read, "Nash is nervous. You better get it by Saturday, or I want my 10%. Derek dove for the phone, his face slick with panic. But it was too late. He fumbled with it, his back to me, furiously typing a reply. I saw a flicker of movement out of the corner of my eye, through the living room window, in the dusk. Ruthie was walking her small terrier, exactly as she did every night. She paused on the sidewalk, right in line with the window. Her phone was in her hand, held up. She was not checking messages. She was taking a picture. She held it steady for 2 seconds. Then, as if nothing had happened, she lowered it and continued her walk. My own phone vibrated in my pocket. It was a picture message from Ruthie. A crystal clear, zoomed-in shot of Derek's phone screen. The text message captured perfectly. I forwarded it to Claire with one word, Nash. The reply came back in minutes. I hired a private investigator this afternoon. He's running background on Nash and the $18,500 check. This helps. Stay calm. Do not engage. Lock your door. I went to my room and did just that. The hours dragged by. The house was silent, but it was the silence of a held breath. At 11 p.m., my phone lit up again. A long text from Claire. We have him. The investigator hit gold. Nash is Thomas Nash, Derek's old friend from college. His brokerage license was suspended 2 years ago for gross mismanagement of client escrow. He's been operating illegally through a shell company. This is a criminal conspiracy. Marjorie, not just a family dispute. I read the message again. Suspended? An illegal shell company. Another text came through before I could reply. It gets worse. The $18,500 check. It's not a loan. It's from a high-risk gambling account. Derek's debt is to them. The appraisal we saw in the box. The one scheduled for Saturday. My investigator checked the shell company's public booking site. They just moved it up. It's for tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., at your house. They're accelerating. So are we. I did not sleep. My house, the place that had been my fortress for 30 years, felt like a stage set for a crime. At 6 a.m., my phone rang. It was Claire. The emergency TRO has been filed with the court. Marjorie, she said, her voice crisp, awake. It's a temporary restraining order. As of 5 minutes ago, they are legally barred from transferring, selling, or accessing any of your financial assets, including the house. The trap is set. What about the appraisal? I asked, my voice thick. They're coming, and we're letting them. I'll be there at 8:30. I've already spoken with the local precinct. They are dispatching 2 officers to witness a potential breach of the peace at your address, at your invitation. For 2 hours. I sat in my kitchen, drinking coffee I could not taste, while upstairs, I could hear Sienna and Derek whispering, getting ready, believing they were minutes away from victory. At 8:30, Claire's car pulled up. At 8:45, a squad car pulled in behind her. 2 officers, a man and a woman, walked up the path. They looked professional, but wary, like they were anticipating a messy domestic fight. "Officers," I said, meeting them on the porch. Claire stood beside me. "Thank you for coming. As my attorney explained, I am not in danger. I am the victim of financial fraud. I have invited you here to witness an illegal appraisal scheduled for 9 a.m., an appraisal arranged by the people in my home using fraudulent documents." I handed them a copy of the filed TRO and my affidavit. The female officer read it, her eyes widening slightly. She understood. This was not a confused old woman. This was a legal proceeding. Across the street, I saw Ruthie step onto her porch with her morning mug. Her phone was in her hand. She gave me a single, determined nod. She was online, her private stream active, ensuring the entire neighborhood watch group was a silent witness. At exactly 9 o'clock, a modest blue sedan pulled up. A nervous-looking man in a polo shirt got out, carrying a clipboard, the appraiser. He looked at the police car, at Claire in her suit, and at me. And he stopped, confused. A moment later, a sleek black car pulled in behind him. Thomas Nash. He got out, projecting an air of impatient importance, and clapped the appraiser on the shoulder, steering him toward the house. Derek and Sienna opened the front door, standing there to welcome them in. Their smiles were tight, forced. Then Nash saw the officers on the porch. He froze. His entire demeanor changed in a single second. The arrogance dissolved. He looked from the police car to Claire, then back to Derek, his face a mask of dawning panic. He was not a mastermind. He was a small-time crook in a suit, and he had just walked into an ambush. "What is this?" he hissed at Derek, loud enough for all of us to hear. "Why are they here?" Sienna started to say something, but Claire stepped forward. Her voice cut through the morning air, clear and sharp. "Officers, thank you for being here. This is Mr. Thomas Nash, the suspended broker who, we believe, has conspired to defraud my client using a forged power of attorney." The male officer's hand casually moved to rest near his body cam. Nash looked at Claire, then at the officers, and he blurted out the words that sealed his fate. "What are you talking about?" "That's libel. We're just here for the appraisal. The POA was cleared. I checked it myself." A perfect, dead silence fell on the lawn. The female officer spoke, her voice flat. "The POA was cleared. Sir, are you aware you are being recorded?" Nash's mouth snapped shut. He realized, too late, what he had admitted. He had confirmed his knowledge of the document. Sienna shoved past Derek, her face pale, adopting a new, desperate tactic. "Officers? Thank God you're here," she cried, her voice trembling with manufactured hysteria. "My mother-in-law, she's not well. She's confused. She forgets everything. We were just trying to help her, to get her affairs in order. She must have called you. She's paranoid. This is just a terrible misunderstanding. She tried to take my arm, to play the part of the caring, distraught daughter-in-law." I pulled my arm back. I let her performance hang in the air for a beat. Then I looked at the female officer. "My daughter-in-law claims I am suffering from cognitive decline," I said, my voice steady and strong. I held up a file. "This is a full medical report from my physician, dated yesterday. It confirms I am in excellent mental and physical health. It also contains copies of my real, notarized signature. You will find it does not match the forgery Mr. Nash used to gain access to my bank." The officer took the file. She looked from the report to my signature, to Sienna's now crumbling face. The script had been flipped. The appraiser, seeing his exit, was already walking quickly back to his sedan. "I'm not part of this," he said to no one. "The appointment is cancelled." The male officer stepped toward Nash. "Mr. Nash, we have a filed complaint of financial fraud and a confirmed forged document. We're filing an incident report, number 257. We'd like you to come down to the station to clarify your position." "I'm not saying anything," Nash spat, looking at Derek with pure venom. "That is your right, sir," the officer said, unimpressed. "But you're coming with us." They walked him to the squad car. He did not look back. Sienna and Derek stood frozen on the lawn as the police car pulled away, leaving us in the sudden, shocking quiet. The show was over. Claire turned, her face impassive, and walked back into my house. "I suggest we conclude this inside," she said. It was an order. We sat in the living room, the same room where they had confronted me, but the power had entirely shifted. Derek was grey, his hands shaking so badly he tucked them between his knees. Sienna sat ramrod straight on the edge of the sofa, her eyes darting between me and Claire, her mind clearly racing, searching for a new angle, a new lie. The silence stretched, broken only by Derek's ragged breathing. Then he shattered. It started as a low sound, a moan, and then he put his head in his hands and he began to sob. Not with dignity, but with the ugly, panicked heaves of a cornered animal. I didn't mean for this," he choked out. "The debt. I had a bad run." "A bad run?" Claire asked, her voice devoid of sympathy. "Gambling," he whispered. The words sucked out of him. "I thought I could make it back. The money from the condo sale. I lost it. All of it. And then I borrowed. And the man I borrowed from, he's not a bank. He wanted his money by Saturday." "So you decided to pay him with my house?" I said. It was a flat statement. "No," he cried, looking up, his face slick with tears. "No, not you. I just needed to move money around. Sienna was just helping. She was just organizing the paperwork, trying to protect the family assets, to protect us from the lender." Sienna's head snapped toward him, a look of pure fury. He had implicated her, and he was supposed to be the one to take the fall. She immediately saw her opening and pounced, her voice rising with a new, desperate performance. "He's right," she cried, turning to me, her eyes wide and pleading. "Protect the family. Everything we did, every single thing, it was all for Piper, to give her a future, to make sure she was secure. Even if Derek made mistakes. This house, it's her legacy. We were protecting her legacy." Claire, who had been listening silently, finally spoke. Her voice was as cold and sharp as a scalpel. "Stop. Do not use that child's name in this room. Any attempt to use a minor as a shield to justify fraud is not only pathetic, it is legally irrelevant. The court will not see it as maternal concern. It will see it as manipulation. Pure and simple. You are done using her." Sienna's face crumpled. That was the last card she had to play, and Claire had just burned it. The finality of it broke Derek. The sobs became uncontrollable. She did it," he wept, pointing a shaking finger at his wife. "When I was helping you with the online bills. Mum, I set up your computer. I walked away, but I left you logged in. I let her do it. I let her scan everything. Your desk. The drawers. I knew she was doing it. I let her scan all your papers. All of it. As if summoned by the confession, Claire's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at the screen, her expression hardening. "The truth has a way of coming out," she said. "My investigator just got the logs from Nash's email server, which the police have seized. There is an email sent from Sienna's personal account to Thomas Nash at 5:42 a.m. yesterday. The subject line is Hale Portfolio. Attached are the same scans you found. Marjorie, the deed, the signature samples, the check. This was not a panicked reaction. Sienna, this was a premeditated, organized plan. You are the one who delivered the entire package to the broker." Claire leaned forward, the legal predator now ready to define the terms of surrender. She looked first at my son. "For you, Derek," she said. "There may be a path, a very narrow one. You are an accessory, but you are also a debtor who was being leveraged. If you provide full, sworn testimony against your wife and Mr. Nash, if you agree to enter a court-mandated treatment program for your gambling addiction, and if you sign a legally binding repayment plan, starting with the $18,500, the district attorney might be convinced to reduce the charges. Probation, a suspended sentence, a chance to not die in a prison cell." Then, her gaze shifted to Sienna. The temperature in the room dropped. "You, however, are the primary conspirator. The evidence shows you initiated the contact. You procured the documents, you created the forgery, and you acted as the witness and agent. You face multiple felony charges: identity theft, forgery, conspiracy to commit wire fraud. You will not be offered a deal." They stared at her, the two of them, the ruin of their lives laid out on my living room carpet. I stood up. My legs were trembling, but I held myself straight. I looked at my son, the boy I had raised in this house, and at the woman who had tried to steal it. "I will protect my property," I said to Claire, but my eyes were locked on them. "And I will protect the safety and well-being of Piper. I am not interested in revenge. I am interested in justice. And I am not, under any circumstances, negotiable." The preliminary hearing was not a trial, but a battle of evidence. The courtroom was cold, the light a flat, municipal grey. Sienna and Derek sat at a separate table, each with their own court-appointed attorney. They looked small and pale. The judge, a no-nonsense woman named Alani Kay, Pace, reviewed the filings. Claire was concise, laying out the timeline like an autopsy. "First, Your Honour," Claire said, "we have the bank's internal investigation, which they provided under subpoena. A representative from Lakeview Bank, the same Mr. Davies who had looked so ill, took the stand. He confirmed it. The power of attorney was a forgery. We have verified the notary stamp was also a counterfeit. The witness was the agent herself, Sienna Vale." "And the security footage?" Claire asked. "The individual who filed the document was disguised," Davies said. "Hood, sunglasses, medical gloves. However, our security analysts isolated two unique identifiers." He pointed to a high resolution still on the courtroom monitors. "A rose gold watch with a paved diamond face, and a very specific emerald-cut ring on the right hand. The items are visible in both the new accounts footage and, later, when Ms. Vale accessed the vault." Claire produced two other photos, taken from Sienna's public social media. One showed her at a restaurant, hand to her face, wearing the identical ring. The other was a selfie with Derek, her wrist and the unmistakable watch held high. Sienna sank lower in her chair. "Next," Claire continued, "we have the testimony of the co-conspirator, Mr. Thomas Nash." Nash, in a rumpled suit and a sheen of sweat, had clearly taken the deal. His lawyer presented a full log of text messages, the courtroom monitors filled with them. "Sienna, he's desperate. He'll do anything. But the asset is in her name. I need a POA that looks perfect. Nash. That's a high-risk play. It'll cost you. Sienna, just get it done. He's a fish on a hook. He'll follow my lead." The judge read the last text aloud, her voice flat. "He's a fish on a hook." It's clear who Ms. Vale believed was in charge of this plan. Then came the first surprise. Claire addressed the court. "Your Honor, when the safe deposit box was sealed, we believed it contained only the forged POA and the liquidation plan. When the bank's legal team did a final inventory, they found another document, tucked inside the estate pre-transfer envelope." She held up a sealed evidence bag. "This is a predated purchase agreement for my client's home, to be executed the moment the POA was cleared. The sale price is 60 cents on the dollar." "And the buyer?" the judge asked, her pen poised. "An anonymous LLC," Claire said. "One which my investigator has definitively traced back to the same individual who holds Mr. Derek Hale's gambling markers. This was not just a plan to steal a house. It was a plan to hand it directly to a loan shark." Derek let out a choked sound. He had not known. He had been a pawn for everyone. The second surprise came not from Claire, but from a court-appointed child welfare advocate who had been asked to assess Piper's living situation. The advocate's report was damning, detailing the extreme tension and emotional volatility in the home. "Your Honor," the advocate said, "we do not allege any physical abuse, and the child's removal is not requested. However, the emotional environment is a cause for severe concern. As a contextual indicator of the child's state of mind, I submit this drawing, made in her second-grade art class." A new image appeared on the monitors. It was a child's drawing, in crayon, a drawing of my house. But in the drawing, the front door had two large, heavy padlocks on it. A stick figure labelled Grandma was inside. A stick figure labelled Mommy was outside, holding a very large, misshapen key. The teacher had written Piper's title at the bottom, "The House with Two Locks. Mommy took Grandma's key." I had not seen it before. I felt the tears finally come, hot and silent. It was not a drawing of abuse. It was a drawing of insecurity. My granddaughter felt so unsafe she had drawn a fortress. That was the end. The judge's face was stone. "This is not a complicated matter," Judge Pace said, her voice cutting through the room. "The evidence is overwhelming." She signed the orders with a firm, black pen. "The temporary restraining order is now a preliminary injunction. The assets of Marjorie Hale are fully secured. Sienna Vale is to have zero with Mrs. Hale. She is barred from the residence at..." The judge read my address. "Effective immediately. She may be escorted by an officer to retrieve her personal effects and nothing more. As for you, Mr. Hale," she said, pinning Derek with a look, "you are also barred from the home, with one exception to attend your addiction treatment program, for which you will enroll today. Your access to your mother is at her discretion and contingent on your full compliance with the repayment plan. Finally, the judge said, looking at the advocate, given the instability, I am ordering Child and Family Services to oversee the welfare of the minor child, Piper Hale, pending a more permanent custody arrangement. The gavel struck. It was done. The final day in court was not a hearing. It was a formality, a closing of the book. Claire had saved her final, devastating piece of evidence for this. Sienna's attorney was attempting a final, weak plea for mitigation, painting her as a desperate mother, when Claire stood up. "Your Honour," she said, "the defence argues this was an act of desperation. The prosecution has argued it was an act of calculated greed. I would like to submit one final piece of evidence that proves the latter, beyond any doubt." She held up a clear plastic evidence bag. Inside was the small, thin piece of mica film from Sienna's purse. "This is the forgery tool," Claire said, as an image of it was projected onto the monitors. "We found this in Ms. Vale's purse, the one she so desperately tried to keep my client from opening. It is a tracing template of my client's signature." She then projected the forged POA signature from the bank, side by side with the mica. If you look at the loop on the M and the cross on the H, you will see they are identical, not just similar, as two signatures might be, but identical. A 100% match. But more than that, look at the final stroke of the E in Hale. It's unnaturally elongated, a tremor in the tracing. She zoomed in. "This template, Your Honour, is not just a copy. It is a stencil that contains the same identical flaw, practiced until it was perfect. This was not desperation. This was practice." The bank's manager, Mr. Davies, was the final witness. He looked worn, but relieved. As a result of this incident, Lakeview Community Bank has instituted a new, mandatory red flag protocol. Any POA presented on behalf of a senior client now requires a live, verbal confirmation call. The sale of Mrs. Hale's property was intercepted and cancelled by this new alert system. "And what triggered the initial investigation?" Claire asked. "One phone call," Davies said, looking directly at me. "The one we made to Mrs. Hale's contact number, the one she didn't ignore. That one call prevented the full liquidation of her estate." The judge did not deliberate for long. The verdict was a clean sweep. "The power of attorney is ruled void, fraudulent, and invalid," she declared. "All transactions, pending or complete, are hereby cancelled and reversed. Thomas Nash and Sienna Vale are found jointly liable for restitution. All funds in their known accounts are to be seized and garnished to repay the $18,500, plus legal fees." She looked at Derek. "Mr. Hale, you are the luckiest man in this room. You are sentenced to 5 years, suspended, on the condition of your immediate enrollment in a certified debt and gambling recovery program. You will be subject to a court-supervised repayment plan. If you miss one payment, if you miss one meeting, you will serve the full term." Finally, she looked at Sienna. "Ms. Vale, a no-contact order is hereby issued. You are to remain 1,000 feet from Marjorie Hale and her residence at all times. All visitations with your daughter will be supervised by Child and Family Services, pending your own evaluations." I left the courthouse, past the bank, and went straight to a locksmith. By that evening, every lock on my house was new. The next day, I had a new, state-of-the-art safe system installed in my closet, one that required both a key and a biometric scan. Claire helped me draft the new will. I established a conditional trust for Piper. My house, my assets, would all be hers one day, but managed by a third-party executor, with staggered payments for her education and her first home. The money would be protected, for her, from anyone. It was the best I could do under the law, without interfering in the court's custody decisions. Derek, looking smaller and older than I had ever seen him, was picked up by a car from the recovery center 2 days later. He did not ask to say goodbye to me. And Ruthie, my wonderful, sharp Ruthie, was energized. She and a few of her old colleagues, a retired paralegal, a former accountant, and another widow from down the street started a club. They call themselves the North Shore Matriarchs. They hold clinics at the community center, teaching other seniors how to spot financial fraud, how to secure their online accounts, and, in Ruthie's words, how to fight back. A week later, a box arrived from the police department, evidence being returned. Inside, among the files and photos, was the cream-colored purse. I looked at it for a long time. It felt heavier than I remembered. I unzipped it, the scent of stale, expensive perfume hitting me one last time. It was empty, except for one thing, tucked into the side pocket where the forgery template had been. It was a piece of notebook paper, folded into a small square. I opened it. It was in Piper's wobbly, second-grade handwriting. Just 6 words. Grandma's house feels safe. I love you. I held that note until the paper grew warm. Then I picked up the phone and dialed the number for the Lakeview Community Bank fraud desk. I asked for Stephen. I just wanted to thank you, I said, my voice thick. For that day, for the call you made. I took a breath, the full weight of it landing on me. If you hadn't, I would have lost everything. My home, my granddaughter, everything. There was a silence on the other end, and then his voice, still professional, but with a new warmth I had not heard before. One moment of suspicion, ma'am. That's all it was. One person who thought, that doesn't feel right. Sometimes, one moment like that saves a lifetime. I hung up. I walked to my living room window. The first snow of the season was beginning to fall. Big, silent flakes covering the world in white, making everything clean again. I placed my hand on the smooth, cold steel of my new safe. A small smile touched my lips. The knot was finally untied. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you are tuning in from. So drop a comment below and let's share our thoughts. Please subscribe to the Lily Revenge Stories channel, like this video, and if you want to support us further, hit that hype button so more people can hear this story.